Hey, what's going on? This is Dylan.
My name is Leslie.
And this is Music and Mascara in the Car. Today we're going to talk about 2019.
Yes.
And what are you going to do in 2020? And what am I going to do in 2020? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Goals.
Talk about some new habits, some mentality.
Aspirations.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Because New Year's resolutions are dumb. Okay, so let me first of all explain why I think New Year's resolutions are dumb. Not everybody does. Some people need that, like, January 1st, I'm going to start a thing. But my personal mentality can't do that. Doesn't do that, doesn't work like that, is probably more a fair, accurate statement to say. Because I don't want to wait to implement something because I continue to procrastinate it off. And I also feel like people do New Year's resolutions because other people do New Year's resolutions, and then they don't fully commit to them because it's not what personally they feel they need, and they've gotten to the point in their life where they need to actually implement this thing. Like, I'm going to quit smoking. That's my New Year's resolution. Well, maybe that was last year, maybe that was the year before too. So, like, being at a place where it actually makes sense to make that in your head first.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like it, I guess. That's where
it's interesting
my
you
brain...
say it like that, because I tend to think of resolutions in the same way. They're not like a true commitment. But, and we can talk about this maybe in another episode, but the way the brain works is...
Write it down.
You know, people are failing all the time, right? They're like, well, I tried before and I couldn't. And, you know, like you said, quitting smoking, you know, that might have been their New Year's resolution for the past 5 years. And they're like, that's my 2020 resolution. I'm going to do it this year. But your brain is already like, no, you're not. Because you've told it these things before and you didn't do it. So you like set yourself up for failure. So it's interesting. I've never thought about resolutions in the sense of like a peer pressure move, but they definitely are.
They kind of are. And
when somebody asks you that too, you like feel like, oh, should I have those?
I need to get some. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be the first to tell you I don't do that, but
yeah, she's like impervious to peer pressure.
Yeah, I don't do peer pressure. I don't care.
So that's why I think it's important to talk about. First of all, I think we should take a minute and talk about our 2019, because it was crazy and it was amazing. But when we start talking about what are we going to do in 2020 and thinking about the mentality that it takes to plan that, I guess this is why we're talking about it before the end of the year.
Yeah. Because
you have to build habits. This is a longer process than just saying, I'm going to do a thing in 2020 and set that as your New Year's resolution. Yeah. It's a whole lot longer process.
So I like that you say build habits, because we tend to, like, some people need resolutions, some people set goals. My brain doesn't work in any of those capacities because it feels overwhelming to me and like far-fetched. So creating habits, taking action, building habits on a consistent action, like, you know, I read a book and it was all about habit stacking. So like once you nail something, you just stack something on top of it and you keep pushing those action items towards whatever bigger vision that you have. And I think that's really powerful. So yeah, to say, if you want to talk about some of the things we've done in 2019 first, and then we'll talk about how that's going to transition.
Agree, because this is what we've been doing. Right. I think the stuff we've been doing all year in 2019 for Music and Mascara, and for us personally as a couple, it's been longer than even just this year. It's been like a 5-year process to get to this point. And then to say, because we did say, by the end of the year, we want to have this done, and we want to be in a particular spot. We'll get to that in a minute. But we had been building on that for a long time. It wasn't just a pop-up New Year's resolution, if that makes sense.
Right.
So...
and thinking about it and being smart about when the time was right. And
and making little incremental changes and little incremental decisions to build up to bigger things.
Mainly to build up to our own mindset, almost.
That was it. Yeah. Mindset first. So the biggest thing that started this whole thing is when I sold my truck. Well, we sold both the Toyotas in May. And we're like, okay, simplification time. We have 2 big trucks in the driveway that we never use.
Because we're always together.
Because we're always together. We don't need both of them. Let's ditch both of them and get a little car that gets better gas mileage. We know we love Volkswagens.
Here we are.
And here we are. And we didn't want a wagon and we didn't want a blue car, but we got a blue wagon. But
because goals.
Because goals. It was a bigger picture thing than just what we cared about, colors and stuff.
But it was easy. It was still hard, y'all.
It was still hard. Now we love it, but that turned us, though. So that, to me, that was a big thing in 2019. We'd been talking for the last 5 years about simplifying and getting rid of stuff that we don't use, redundancies in our lives, and really doing it in a big way.
And it was really not, I think part of the encouraging thing to me, things always happen at the right time. But for us to, as we were simplifying, you talked, redundancy made me think of this. We laughed that time this was like the second or third time we had helped out a young couple, but we gave them a full kitchen worth of supplies, and we still had our full kitchen and still had extras. So even being able to help people in the process, felt really good, and just makes you remember why you here's somebody who has nothing and they're thankful for these things that we can give them, and you're like, why do we have so much stuff? We don't need this. And that felt really good and was motivating to let things go too.
Yep. And then that just literally turned into a snowball effect through our entire lives. We watched the Marie Kondo show.
Yes. And
Marie Kondo'd our closets and got rid of a bunch of stuff. And then you're like, well, I don't need that closet. Well, now all of a sudden I don't need this room. Now I'm realizing I don't even need this room. And then you're like, well, now I don't even really need this house. It just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. And if somebody were to tell me 2 years ago, you're going to sell everything you own and be homeless on purpose and be stepping into the next part of your life with this amount of freedom, I would have never.
We wouldn't have believed it. Yeah.
No, never.
We, over the years, as we've even had these conversations, we've gone house shopping every year.
Every January, it seems like.
Had custom plans drawn up and found a piece of land, and we're going to have a house built.
With a big shop and everything.
We've been all over the spectrum of what do we want. And, I don't think I'm the only one whose brain is I either want it all or I don't really need anything. We want lots of things. Everybody wants things. We don't really need anything. And I'm to the point now, I don't even want it.
Nope. No. And the thing is when we start talking about goals and encouraging and helping other people to set goals and to look, it's about, I don't know, I guess it's about drawing a picture.
Vision boards.
Vision board, draw a picture of what you want, whether that's less stuff, more stuff. I don't care. It's different for everybody.
Yeah. And vision boarding is part of that process too. If you visualize, so they challenge you. Everybody's like, I don't want to work. It'd be great to work from home. People have these, what they think are lofty goals. And even retirement, when people are thinking about retirement, what are you going to do when you don't have to go to work that day? What is your ideal, if you get to drive everything, what does your ideal day look like? Well, mine did not include cleaning house or cutting grass or taking care of gardens. I just didn't want any of that. So
Nope.
Why do I have a house?
Exactly. So it's gone. So let's talk about what that means. And we besides being busy, we had one kid graduate from high school and go to college. We had one kid get their driver's license and their first job. We sold our house. We got rid of everything. We're officially homeless, and it's amazing. But we're doing all of that for a reason that is part of a bigger picture We're not sharing all of that with you today, but I think
We don't really know.
because we don't really know all the details.
We're open.
We're figuring it out as we
Yes.
go. That's really what we're doing. But for me, one of the goals that I have for 2020 is to create a situation with what I'm doing that creates more freedom of time in the day, and makes it to where I am utilizing more online tools to make a living and less physical things to make a living. Like, that's probably, without giving up too much details and ruining any surprises, that's probably what I would say is moving into more online realm and less physical realm of making a living. Because that's easier on my body. I can't, that's easier on my body. That's easier on stress levels, and it creates ultimately more freedom for both of us. And I think you're trying to do the same thing.
Correct.
One of the other things we started this year, obviously, was this podcast. We kept talking about it.
We could put it off till next year.
We could have. And there were reasons to do it, but we're like, well, start first of the year, and it'll be, no, start it now. Like, we have the idea now. Don't put it off anymore.
So we put it into action. We're creating those habits to propel us into the next year. It is probably a next year's goal, but we could start it now and cultivate it now and get again in those habits now.
And what's crazy is that I can feel already, and we'll probably talk about this in another episode, some of the things we've done for our business in the, let's call it the third and fourth quarters of this year, that we could have put off till next year, and we were going to put off until next year. We didn't. We took that action, and we can already feel the benefits of it happening. Maybe not to scale, maybe not totally the end result that we want yet, but what if we were to put it off till next year?
But we're that many more months ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we're like 4 or 5 months ahead of our whole schedule on certain things because we just did it now. And it goes back to that book we're reading, which we need to read some more of today. That whole book about 5-second decisions. Like, instead of talking ourselves out of stuff, like literally just doing it, because you have stuff you want to do in 2020, right?
Stop. I mean,
I know,
can't even see.
I know.
They just let one car go.
I don't really know
That
what.
was crazy. Why didn't they let all of them go?
Well, it's when you have broken red lights, I technically think it's supposed to be a 4-way stop, or a 3-way in this case.
Really?
Yeah. When you have broken red lights, it turns into it's supposed to be a 4-way stop or a 3-way stop. So you do the normal, like, go around in a circle thing. Yeah.
How do you do that with 6 lanes of traffic, though?
I know. That's why you just have to sit there and be careful, because nobody knows how to do it. Whew. And I was glad I was only on the outside, so I could just sit there and watch and wait. Yep. All right. So I gave like a veiled, cryptic idea of what I'm doing in 2020. What is your veiled and cryptic idea of what you're going to do in 2020?
I don't know that mine is shifting as much. Online business has always been
your goal.
A big goal of mine. Using the power of social media. I feel like that's shifting a little bit for me as far as maybe where my audience is. I'm trying to figure that out. So I am shifting, trying to keep up and figure things out, but much the same as far as working online. But I'm going to try to be more active online. I'm going to try to be online more. I'm going to try to share more of myself. So I do have a bigger vision coming, something new though. Because there are things we all do. If you have time at the end of your day to do nothing, to watch TV, to read an article, we all probably default back to something that really defines our passion. And I'm pretty sure I knew what mine was, and Dylan confirmed probably what mine is.
Yes.
So I have some things falling into place that I've just kind of been organizing and getting ready. Not because procrastination, because planning is procrastination, but just because of we wanted to launch there were just things that I needed to solidify to create habits, to build new habits on.
Yeah, you have a
we
thing
needed to create this habit together so that I can figure out where to fit in my new habit.
Yeah, and the thing that you're going to do, and of course, I have a thing that I'm doing next year that I'm not talking about. She has a thing that she's doing next year that she's not talking about. We have a thing together next year that we're doing together that we're not really talking about yet. But the idea of this whole conversation today is what steps, if you have a thing that you're not telling anybody about yet, because maybe it's a dumb idea. Like, you know, every idea seems crazy in like, that would be insane. Like, why would I even tell anybody that I want to do that? But all insane ideas start like that. And then all of a sudden you take incremental little steps.
Good ideas start like that.
Yeah.
They don't have to be insane.
But they are in your own head at first. You're like, sometimes, like, I wish I could do this.
If you knew how many of our conversations started with, I have this crazy idea.
I have this crazy idea.
Or you're going to think I'm crazy, but...
Yeah, and if, like you were just saying, if you get home at night and you're bored or you have nothing else going on, that's when that crazy idea pops up. You start watching YouTube videos about it. You start learning about it. You start internet surfing about this crazy idea. And then you get up the next morning and you go to work and that crazy idea just kind of dies, right? Like, that's what happens for a lot of people. Or it just stays in crazy idea phase. It never really... So
yeah, but can you make it a reality? Like,
so all we're doing, me and you both, is we're taking our crazy idea, whatever it is, and taking incremental steps to make it not crazy, to make it real.
Yes.
And so I hope that if you have one, that might be the post for next week, is how do you make your crazy idea real? Like, because it's true. Like, it's totally true.
First thing is you have to be able to have somebody you can tell your crazy idea to.
Yeah. We have each other for that.
We do have each other. So if you have a crazy idea, make sure you're with us on Patreon. Feel free to share those ideas. That'll be our little private community area. Yeah. We can talk about crazy ideas. Because sometimes your idea is not so crazy.
Nope.
It may sound crazy because you don't know how to implement it. It might sound crazy because you don't know if it's possible. But if it's your idea and you're thinking about it enough for it to be on your mind, and then you're thinking about it enough to want to tell somebody, like, it's really not crazy.
Right.
It's really not crazy. Like, I could visualize the latest thing I'm working on. And I'm going to explain this very soon. So if you follow me, you'll learn about this very soon. But I was, I guess, worried because there was some redundancy to my plan. And I was like, oh, he's going to think I'm crazy because I'm kind of taking a step backwards. And then it was like, oh, he's going to think I'm crazy because it feels like I'm doing something else and we want to simplify. But in my mind, I wasn't doing something else. And by the time I shared this, quote, crazy idea with him, he was like, no, that's who you are. That's not something else. So it just made sense.
And I didn't mean that to say that you were crazy.
It's just who I am. I'm just crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that being the possibility. So thanks for planting that seed in my head now.
So at the end of 2019, we started talking about takeaways from our podcasts. At the end of 2019,
yes.
Before it's 2020, can we all get out a whiteboard, start a vision board on your phone? They have apps for that. And really write down whatever crazy idea you have, or whatever things that you are trying to implement or have taken steps to implement, and maybe backed off of them in the past, and think about incremental changes and things that you can do today to work towards that goal, so that you're now all of a sudden not putting it off anymore.
Yes.
Even if the goal is not realized until next year, you're doing something today.
Yes.
To get you there.
And getting those ideas out of your head are really powerful too. Once you start writing them down, you can kind of even see a plan coming together sometimes. So it's just a really healthy exercise also.
I agree. And I think that's what's crazy about it too, is it's motivating in itself. When you have a good idea, when you make 1 or 2 or 3 little steps, then all of a sudden steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, like they just start rolling, man. Like last night, what was it, like 10 o'clock last night? And she's like, are you done yet? Because I kept telling her, I'm going to be done. I'm going to be done. I'm not going to do any more work related. This is like a Friday night. It's raining. We're not going anywhere. Same thing you just said. At the end of the day, where is your passion? And here I am working at 9 o'clock on a Friday night. And she's like, are you done? Nope, I'm not, because it's like my mind is just going and going and going and going. Because I took the first step, it turned into the second, it turned into the third, it turned into the fourth. And that'll turn into a snowball that'll get you somewhere.
For sure.
Right? Faster than you planned on. So
I love it.
Just do stuff.